Serfdom refers to a system that ties a peasant to a landowner and the land itself. The landlord and peasant would enter an agreement granting land in exchange for labor and services. The peasant received loans, agricultural tools, and land, but had to pay dues to the landlord. Many peasants failed to repay debts, remaining bound indefinitely in harsh conditions. Life under serfdom became so miserable that peasants could be compared to slaves. Some aspects of American slavery were indeed similar to Russian serfdom, though clear differences existed. This paper explores the similarities and differences between serfdom in Russia and slavery in America, two systems that shaped history through oppression and forced labor. Before comparison, it's important to define both systems. Slaves in America were brought from Africa through the slave trade and sold to white plantation owners as property. When purchased, the slave became the property of the master, counted among possessions such as plantations and livestock. A serf in Russia entered bondage voluntarily for survival. Serfs were indentured servants who could gain freedom after paying debts. Ownership systems differed greatly between the two, with Russia's being more complex than America's. In Russian serfdom, serfs could be owned by both the state and individuals. The gentry owned most serfs, often receiving land grants from the Tsar, who protected their interests. In contrast, American slaves were owned solely by private individuals. They were transported by slave trading companies, auctioned, and bought mainly by plantation owners. Slaves worked on plantations or in domestic service. The state in America owned no slaves. Serfdom and slavery differed further in how religion and ideology sustained each system. In Russia, the Orthodox Church rarely condemned serfdom, but didn't justify it either. It focused sermons on worldly matters, ignoring the suffering of peasants. In contrast, in America, Christianity became a weapon of control. Africans brought as slaves, often Muslims or traditionalists, were forced to abandon their religions. Slave owners used the Bible to justify slavery, citing the story of Ham. They claimed Africans were his cursed descendants, destined to serve white masters as inferiors. Slaves were given edited Bibles, removing passages on equality. They were taught obedience as divine duty to serve masters loyally and hope for reward in heaven. Thus, religion in America was distorted to legitimize slavery. While in Russia, it largely ignored serfdom, but didn't manipulate faith as directly. Both systems shared many brutal similarities. Serfs and slaves endured harsh treatment, constant abuse, and lived under complete control of their masters. As Russian serfdom advanced, the gentry grew powerful, exploiting serfs with impunity. Serfs faced inhumane treatment and lacked any legal protection from abuse. Slaves in America suffered even worse. Enslaved women were victims of sexual violence. Routinely raped by masters without consequence or concern for their suffering. Men faced savage beatings. Rebellious slaves could receive hundreds of lashes, as seen in stories like that of Kunta Kinte, punished for refusing to accept a new name. Slave narratives like Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl and Our Nig reveal the horrors of slavery, physical abuse, emotional torment, and resilience of enslaved Africans. Both systems were legalized. Russia's 1649 law code formalized serfdom, legalizing buying and selling serfs, and enforcing cruel restrictions on their movement and rights. In America, slavery was legalized by the Virginia House of Burgesses. Unless freed by their masters, slaves were condemned to servitude for life. Southern states passed additional laws tightening control. Children born to slaves inherited their parents' bondage, just as serfs' children became serfs by birth. Both systems stripped away basic human rights. Serfs were trapped in rigid social hierarchies that denied them upward mobility through the pomesty system. In America, enslaved Africans were denied rights to vote, be educated, or hold office. Whites justified this with racist beliefs in black inferiority. Both systems used their victims primarily for agricultural labor. Serfs cultivated land for landlords, providing cheap labor that sustained the Russian economy. Similarly, slavery in America supported large plantations growing tobacco, rice, and wheat. The enslaved formed the backbone of agricultural production. Runaways were harshly punished in both systems. Russia changed the statute of limitations on runaway serfs to indefinite pursuit, ensuring they could never be free. Laws punished those who sheltered fugitive serfs, discouraging aid. In America, similar fugitive slave laws led to brutal hunts and deadly captures by bounty hunters. Runaway slaves were often tracked by bloodhounds, mauled or killed before reaching safety in the North. Escaping bondage required unimaginable courage. Revolts also marked both systems. In Russia, between 1762 and 1769, widespread serf uprisings erupted under Peter and Catherine the Great due to worsening oppression. In America, slaves staged revolts seeking freedom. The Nat Turner Rebellion became one of the bloodiest, resulting in hundreds of slave deaths and harsher restrictions. In conclusion, the similarities between Russian serfdom and American slavery outweighed their differences. Both inflicted years of physical and psychological torment. While serfdom's legacy faded in modern Russia, slavery's effects still echo in America. African Americans continue to face discrimination rooted in their enslaved past.